Hello students, today we have to move for the next topic in the lesson, Indian physiography. So till to yesterday we learnt about that one physiographic divisions, that is the Himalayan mountain, but I didn't explain about the importance of Himalaya, the last part it is. So let us know about that what are the importance of Himalaya. So what are the importance of Himalaya actually? Himalaya mainly it prevent from foreign invasions, that is the first one. It prevent from us from the foreign invasion. Invasion means dhangegadadu. Okay. So or any enemies attack the India. Okay. No one can easily attack the India. That is called as invasion. Invasion means attacking. Okay. So it prevent us from the foreign invasion. I mean nobody easily, foreigners not able to attack easily because they want to cross the natural frontiers. Yesterday only I told you three sides water bodies and one side is Himalayan mountain. Next also it prevent us from the cold wind also, because I think you know about that during the winter season other countries like USA, France, Russia, they are suffering from very cold wind, but we are safe. We are getting the optimum temperature in a winter because it prevent, mainly the Himalaya protect us from the cold winds. I mean it stopped the cold winds. Okay. Next, they are the storehouse of many minerals. Many minerals are there in the Himalaya, so we can get the minerals. Minerals in the sense, I think you know about that iron. It is rich in iron, copper, bauxite, aluminium, etc. Okay, aluminium, bauxite is the ore of aluminium. So that is, it is very storehouse or rich in very mineral, and it is also the birthplace of many rivers. Yesterday only I told you, that is Gangotri and Yamunotri. That is the main thing here. Gangotri is the birthplace of Ganga river, Yamunotri is the birthplace of Yamuna river. Like that, many rivers get birth in the Himalaya, so that's why it is the birthplace of many rivers. And also it helps for, if the rivers are there, there will be the hydroelectric power generation. There will be the what? Hydroelectric power generation. It helps for the hydroelectric power generation because water fall from the height, so through that we can generate the electric current very easily. And it is also the center of many tourist and the religious people. Yes, many tourists and the religious peoples, or religious peoples in the sense, many of them saints and everyone, they has to go for the Himalaya for their meditation in the sense dhyana, tapassiಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. Okay, so that's why it is the main center of tourist and the religious people. And also the next thing is it is giving a natural habitat for the wild animals. Many wild animals get a natural habitat where in a Himalaya. So these are the importance of Himalaya. Most repeated question and very important question it is. Write the importance of Himalaya. First one. So Himalaya protect us from the foreign invasion. Foreign invasion means foreigners attack, and it protect us from the cold winds. Then it is a storehouse of many minerals. We can get the many minerals there. And next point is it is the birthplace of many rivers. And it helps for the hydroelectric power generation, electric current generation. And it is the it is the main center for the tourist and the religious people, particularly religious in the sense, now I told you know, saints. Many of the saints go for, particularly they has to go for the Himalaya for their meditation, like that. And it is the natural habitat, or it is give a shelter for the many wild animals. Habitat means giving a shelter. So this is about the Himalaya. So one physiographic division has completed. Okay. Now let us move for the second physiographic division, that is the Nadran Greater Plain. Nadran Greater Plain. Nadran Greater Plain. Very important. So this Nadran Greater Plain, where it is found between the Himalaya and the Peninsular Plate. Very important. It is found between the Himalaya and Peninsular Plate. Keep in mind. So this Northern Greater Plain found between the Himalaya and Peninsular Plateau. How this Northern Greater Plain, it is a huge area actually, just it is a plain in the sense land area, okay, but it rich in very fertile land, but it is rich in very fertile land. So this is formed, Northern Greater Plain is formed and it is fertile, I already told you. So it is why it is a fertile or how it is formed, okay. So it is formed by the deposition of the alluvial soil carried by the three rivers, namely, okay. There are the kinds of soil, I think you know about that: alluvial soil, red soil, black soil and laterite soil, right? Alluvial soil is the soil formed by the deposition of the rivers or the sediments carried by the river. Keep in mind how the alluvial soil is formed. And in the same way, red soil is formed by the breaking up of the granite rock, okay, that is called red soil, I think you know about that. And black soil is also, it is a very thick actually, so it is formed by the weathering of rocks, which is black soil. In the same way, alluvial soil is formed by the sediments carried by the river. What is mean by sediment? Sediment means while flowing the river, because river is flowing in many places and many areas or many regions. While flowing, it carries everything on its way, everything in the sense the water, upper layer of the soil, mannina melbhaga, along with that some fertilizer, along with some minerals, everything is carried. So everything is mixed in that, no. So that's why that alluvial soil is very fertile. So this Northern Greater Plain is also as well as it is fertile, because this Northern Greater Plain is formed by that soil only. By which soil? Alluvial soil. Keep in mind, Northern Greater Plain is formed by the alluvial soil. What is mean by alluvial soil? I told you, the soil which is formed by the sediment, sediments carrying by the rivers. Sediments in the sense the top layer of the soil, including the all the manures or all the minerals and everything, okay, that is called as what? Sediments. If the soil is formed by the sediments carried by the river, that is called as the alluvial soil, okay. So this Northern Greater Plain is formed by the alluvial soil carried by the three rivers, mainly this particularly Northern Greater Plain, because it belongs to the north part of India. So that's why it is carried by the three rivers, that alluvial soil only carried by the three rivers. Which are those three rivers? That is Ganga, Brahmaputra and Sutlej. Ganga, Brahmaputra and Sutlej. Very important. How the Northern Greater Plain is formed. Northern Greater Plain is formed by the alluvial soil carried by the three rivers, namely Ganga, Brahmaputra and Sutlej. J it is. And Sutlej is also one of the river, okay. So where it is formed? It is formed between the Himalaya and Peninsular Plateau. What are the importance of Northern Greater Plain actually? The importance means uses. Keep in mind. Okay, it is best suitable because it is very rich in fertile. So that's why Northern Greater Plain is best suitable for agriculture, because the soil is very fertile, best suitable for agriculture as well as irrigation also. Why it is best suitable for irrigation? Irrigation in the sense what? The allowing of water to the agriculture field, that is called as irrigation. Keep in mind, what is meant by irrigation? Allowing of water to the agricultural field is called as a irrigation. So why it is best suitable for irrigation? Because next to that only there will be the river, okay. So I mean next to the plain area only a river flowing is there. So every time the farmers will get the water, they not need to depends on a rain, because I think you know about that rain is uncertain. So that's why this plain is best suitable for irrigation. And it has a perennial rivers and vast fertile of alluvial soil. It has alluvial soil and it has a many perennial rivers. What is mean by perennial rivers? Perennial, peri means many. Peri means what? Many. Keep in mind. So the rivers which are not buried for many years, ಅನೇಕ ವರ್ಷಗಳವರೆಗೆ ಅವು ಒಣಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. So those rivers are called as perennial rivers. Keep in mind, okay? The rivers which are not buried for many years, okay? Like Ganga always the water is there. Brahmaputra also there. Sutlej is there. Even our Karnataka river, Kaveri is also. That's why Kaveri is called as a Jeevanadi. I think you know about that, right? Is it? So perennial. Peri means many. The rivers which are not buried for many years. Buried means onagode illa. So that is called as perennial rivers. So this northern greater plain having the perennial river and fertile alluvial soil. And it has a good network of roads, railway, communication, what you need required, everything is there in a northern greater plain. If road is there, railway is there, communication is there, then it is easy, no, for the business purpose. So that's why, so it has a good network of road, railway and communication. Road, railway and communication in the sense we can get an internet connection, or we can get the postage facility, or we can get the telephone facility, media facility, everything. And they are widely used for the industrialization, urbanization and trade. So yes, everything is there. Fertility is there, water is there, road, railway, communication is there. So everything is there, no? So that's why many of the peoples have started their industries there. So that's why it is used for what? Industrialization and urbanization. So what is mean by industrialization? Industrialization means establishment of many industries is called as the industrialization. In a northern plain, many of the industries are established, and this, if the industries are there, more people are migrated there. Migrated means travel to there. So that creates the urbanization. Urbanization means making city, because all the facilities is there, no? If all the facility is there, that area, obviously it's become a urban means city, okay? And also it is good place for the trade means vyapar. So these are all the importance of northern greater plain. This is also important question. I repeat again, okay? Northern greater plain importance: it is best suitable for agriculture and irrigation. It has a good network of road, railway, communication, etc. It is having the best fertile alluvial soil as well as the perennial rivers, and it is good for, or it is help for the industrialization and urbanization, and also it help for the trade, okay? So this is about the importance of northern greater plain. Clear? Next is about the third part, that is the, I think you know about that. That is the third physical division, that is the peninsular plate. Peninsular plateau. So what are the hills here we can find? It is also a large area having a very nice powder of soil actually. So that is settled actually, that nice powder of soil settled like a one small like hill shape, like that, okay? So that is called as the peninsular plateau. This shape is called as a plateau, okay? So here also in this we can see the many hills in a peninsular plateau. So which are those peninsular hills we can see in the peninsular plateau? I told you already, it is a hilly region, okay? So which are the main hills we can find in the peninsular plateau? They are Aravali hills, Vindhya, Satpura hills, Western Ghats, what we have seen in Karnataka also. So that is Western Ghats. Western Ghats also comes to the part of peninsular plateau. Along with the Eastern Ghats, Deccan Plateau, Western Ghats along with Eastern Ghats, Deccan Plateau, Deccan Plateau, and Malwa Plateau. Malwa Plateau. So these are the main hill regions we can see in the peninsular plateau. Which are those? Aravali Hills, Vindhya Hills, Satpura, Nagapura is also there. We didn't write, sorry. Nagapura Hills. Then Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, Deccan Plateau, and Malwa Plateau. So these are the hill stations or hills we can see in the peninsular plateau. Peninsular plateau, nothing but the hill, but is having a very small, soft soil, okay, on the ground. So yes, in this we have to see the first one and very important what is there in your book, that is the Aravali Hills. Okay, let us know about the Aravali ranges. So it is the oldest folded mountains lie in the northwest, actually lie to the northwest. Northwest in the sense we can get. So this is the north and this is the west, right? Is it this is east. So here we can see the Aravali ranges. Okay, it is the oldest and famous for folding mountains. Folding mountains in the sense it looks like a folding. Madikegala reeti kanutte. Madike, not part. It is madike. Madike means foldings. Okay, so that's why this Aravali hills or Aravali ranges are called as the folded mountains, because the hills are looked like appears to be folding. Okay. Next, in this, the highest peak is in Aravali Hills. The highest peak is Guru Shikara is the highest peak. Very important. The highest peak of Aravali, it is the Guru Shikara. Guru Shikara. Guru Shikara is the highest peak. The Vindhya and the Satpura range present between this Vindhya and the Satpura range, they are present between the Narmada and Tapati river. Where the Vindhya and Satpura ranges are present in the peninsular plateau, they are present between the Narmada and Tapati river. So in that I told you the next important is Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats. I think you know about that. The Eastern Ghats. Eastern Ghats means next to the, so this is a this is the India southern part. So what we are seeing, the Bay of Bengal coast, here we can see the Eastern Ghats, and what we have seen near to the Arabian Sea, that is called as Western Ghats. So Western Ghats, our Karnataka comes here, no? So that's why we are getting the Western Ghats, not the Eastern Ghats. Keep it in mind, okay? So this, let us know the difference between the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats actually. What are Eastern Ghats means? The Ghat section or the hill range which start from south to the west along the Arabian Sea, that is called as Western Ghats, and the Ghats which is spread along or extended along the Bay of Bengal is called as the Eastern Ghats. Okay. Yes, and this area, Bay of Bengal area, sorry, river area is called as, or that coastal line is called as the East Coast, and this coastal line is called as the West Coast. Yes, Eastern Ghats spread parallel to the East Coast. They are spread parallel to the East Coast like that. If they are mentioning you to ask you in examination to mention the Eastern Ghats actually, so this is completely the Eastern Ghats. They run parallel to the Eastern Ghats. In the same way, Western Ghats, they run parallel to the, parallel means they are not meted anywhere, okay? They are running in a parallel line only, I mean straight line, okay? So that is, they run parallel to the Eastern Coast, that is the Eastern Ghats. They run parallel to the Western Coast, that is the Western Ghats. And Eastern Ghats are wide and flat. They are wide and flat. Keep in mind. And this is Western Ghats is very narrow. The highest peak in the Eastern Ghat is Armakonda. Highest peak is Armakonda. Which is the highest peak? Let us take the difference between Eastern and Western. So this is the Eastern and this is the Western. So this Eastern Ghats, I told you already, run parallel to the East Coast. Run parallel to the East Coast, that is the first one. And this is run parallel to the West Coast. keep in mind. And the next one is, the second one is, I told you, these Eastern Ghats are wide and flat. Wide and flat. Wide means agalavagirutte and flat agirutte. And this is a narrow. Narrow means uddakirutte, not wide. And the next is, here the highest peak is, in Eastern Ghats the highest peak is Aramakonda. Very important. Highest peak is Aramakonda, present in Tamil Nadu. And here the highest peak is Anamudi. And these Eastern Ghats are lower than the Western Ghats. Lower means chikku. Western Ghats kina idu chikkadu. They are lower than the Western Ghats, but they are higher. Avukina idu etter. Higher than the Eastern Ghats. Okay, so these are the difference we can see in the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats. Very important. Eastern Ghats means the Ghat section or the hill range which is spread along the eastern coast is the Eastern Ghats. The Ghat section which is spread, or the hill range which is spread along the western coast is the Western Ghats. Let us take the difference between the Eastern and the Western Ghats actually. So they run parallel to the Eastern coast, they also run parallel to the Western coast, and it is wide and flat, this is narrow. Okay, the highest peak is Aramakonda. Here the highest peak is Anamudi. Keep in mind. Okay, highest peak is Anamudi. Here the highest peak is Aramakonda. They are, Eastern Ghats are the lower than the Western Ghats, but Western Ghats are the higher than the Eastern Ghats. Okay. And I told you the Western Ghats they reaches the Karnataka also. The Western Ghats from Maharashtra to Karnataka is known as, okay, from Maharashtra to Karnataka is known as Sahyadri. I think you know we called this name, right? In Chikmagaluru, Kodagu, we are all called that Ghat section or Ghat range is called as the Sahyadri. What is Sahyadri? The Western Ghats from Maharashtra to Karnataka is called as the Sahyadri. So in this Sahyadri we can see this highest peak, that is the Anamudi. Anamudi is the highest peak of the South India also. Keep in mind, Anamudi is the highest peak of the South India. We told you know Anamudi. Anamudi is found in the Sahyadri only. It is the highest peak of South India. Keep in mind. Okay, highest peak of India is K2. Highest peak of the world is Mount Everest. Highest peak of South India is this thing only, which is Anamudi. Anamudi. Where it is found? It is found in the Sahyadri ranges. I mean between Karnataka and Maharashtra. Okay. So this is about the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats. Okay. So next we have to continue the next part in the next class. So till that, keep learning. Thank you all.